everybody, welcome back to another Ross Reviews, where today we are in something very, very cool. This particular car, it is a 1997 Toyota Aristo. And what makes this car so damn special is what's under the bonnet. And this has the legendary 2JZ, the GTE, the twin turbo, straight out of a Supra. This is what this car has. And man, woo, in this big luxury sedan, I could get used to this. Now these vehicles, they did come out from 1997 and carried through up until 2005. Now, this particular edition, the Aristo even, these were really only sold in Japan. And you did get some very similar cars, however, over in the United States as the Lexus GS300. And amazing cars. I know you guys love them over there. You stance them out. They're awesome. You get them in a V8 even. But you could never get them in the US with the twin turbo 2JZ. So the fact that this particular one, you know, it's the bee's knees. Now, an interesting fact about these Toyota Aristos is the previous generation, so the very first gen Aristo, that featured the 2JZ before any other car. So the Supra is not the owner of the 2JZ. It is the Aristo that is the owner of the 2JZ, and the Supra took it from the Aristo. And it's a fact that not many people really know about because these Aristos were JDM only. They were an expensive car when they came out, and there really just isn't a whole lot of these things. Now, just before we continue with this Aristo, guys, this is for sale at NextRide here in Perth, Western Australia. They're a great group of guys. I have a lot of fun taking cars from their dealership, so if you guys are interested in getting a new car, checking this Aristo out, go to the website. A link is in the description below. Yeah, they're awesome. So huge thanks to them. Let's get back into this Aristo. This thing, big, luxury, 4-door, 5-seater sedan, super sedan really, with a 3-liter twin turbocharged 2JZ. And this thing, as per the Japanese gentlemanship agreed number, makes 276 horsepower and about 333 pound-feet of torque. Now, I'm gonna just let you in on a little secret. This is a 4-speed automatic. Unfortunately, there's no 6 speeds, there's no manuals in these cars. The rear-wheel drive, however, which is very nice, these feel a lot more torquey than 300 pound-feet of torque. You know, 400 something Newton meters. It's still a healthy number, but man, the 4-speed, I absolutely hate just about every 4-speed I get into. You know, in the Commodores, you really got to put a shift kit in them to make them any good. You know, the BTRs, again, I'm not a huge fan. They're a good box for reliability, but they're just not that engaging. This, it's still not as engaging as a manual in this car, of course, but I got to tell you, you put your foot down, and this thing absolutely rockets off. And it just feels like almost like an electric car, that there is no gears because it just keeps pulling. The gears are so long in this thing, but it still has enough torque to kind of really propel you quite quickly. It's impressive, and this thing weighs a little under 1.7 tons. So yeah, she ain't light. Now, if you guys are enjoying this type of content, please make sure you guys go ahead and hit that big red subscribe button. Hit the like button, because guys, that is really how you guys are gonna help me out, how I get paid, how I find new cars to review. So if you guys are enjoying this, again, do me a solid, hit that subscribe button, and let's get back into this Aristo. Now let's just talk about price here for a minute, because as you're gonna imagine, this thing wasn't that cheap when it came out in 1997. You know, this really was a super sedan. And, these 2JZs, they can pump out 700 horsepower all day. So, it really is quite the machine, this thing. And you were going to have to pay for it because in Japan in 1997, this was going to cost you over 4.6 million Japanese yen. And that was going to equate roughly to about 50,000 Australian dollars. And that's 1997 money we're talking about. And 50 grand back in 1997, that's over $100,000 in today's money. So this was an expensive car. Now on the used market, these, first off, are incredibly hard to find. And this only has 47,000 kilometers. And I gotta tell you guys, this thing drives, it feels so tight. The throttle, the steering, it's absolutely amazing, the build quality of this car. On the used market, if you're lucky enough to find one, again, this is for sale at NextRide, you're gonna be looking anywhere from $20,000 to $35,000. Look, that might sound like a lot of money for one of these things, but let's remember what times we're living in here. Let's remember what the future holds for a lot of these performance cars, and that motor under the bonnet of this thing, that is always going to be worth a lot of money. And I think at 35 grand for this, it's a Vortex Edition. This thing's got 47,000 Ks. Like, it is so low. I really think if somebody bought this thing, for 35 grand, they hold on to it, keep the Ks low, keep the thing looking good, this thing is going to be worth 45, 50, 60 grand in only a few short years. And I'll tell you why. Because this thing is from 1997. The US has a 25-year rule. And in 25 years, they're allowed to import this thing. And it's nearly been that time. This car, as soon as it's eligible for the shipment into the United States, this is going to be a $60,000 car. I can just see it. Just like what happened to the Skylines, it's going to happen to these Aristos because that motor, the VIP style, people are going to want this. And people over in America, they will pay big bucks for it. So, yeah, I would get one if you guys are really thinking about it. I would pick one up now because I know this thing is going to hold its value, A, and I know it's going to appreciate as soon as the US can import this thing. Now, another cool thing about this 4-speed transmission, you can flick it over into manual mode, and you do actually have some very old school tech flappy paddle type shifters. They're actually not a paddle, but you have these button shifters. So this is kind of like the T-Series in the AU. You had those buttons. This is very similar. So on the back of the steering wheel, you've got an upshift button on either hand. And then on the front of the wheel, again on either hand, you have a downshift button. So if you're left-handed or right-handed or whichever way you're turning, you can still operate this thing. And, look, it's not the quickest shifter, as you'd imagine. This thing's from 1997. It's over 20-something years old, this car. But the fact that you still have that in here, and, when you leave it in manual, you can really build those revs up. Redline's at 6,500 RPM. And I gotta say, geez, it's pretty impressive. This does not have the same ride quality as a Crown. It doesn't. It's definitely a sportier ride. So, look, there is a little bit of softness in the steering, but it firms up quite quickly. And I do like it. There's hardly any body roll in this car. Rides quite flat. We do have these big aftermarket wheels, I believe, on this car. So, the ride is a little bit compromised. It's a bit firmer over the bumps. But again, the seats, they're so nice and plush. The leather is just outstanding. I can't believe how nice this leather feels in a 20-plus-year-old car. That is like, yeah, it's high-quality leather they used, obviously. And just the seating position, it's very comfortable. You put the key in on this car, the steering wheel rises to you. And again, this is a 20-plus-year-old car. It's just got so much tech that 20 years ago, you know what I mean? It's crazy. Even to this little screen here, look, all the buttons are in Japanese. I can't really read it, but it tells you the outside air temperature. You got dual climate control. Like, it's pretty loaded, this thing. And yeah, automatic windows, side mirrors are automatic. The seats are all electrically controlled. Yeah, it's quality, this thing. And again, the twin turbo is so smooth in this car, and like, you look in the engine bay of this thing, it is immaculate. It is. I genuinely believe this has only 47,000 Ks, and you got to be careful when you're importing cars from Japan. You know, some people do tamper with the gauge cluster and stuff, but the interior, the leather feel, the engine bay, I actually think this is a sub 50,000 kilometer car. It feels immaculate. You know, it is just so smooth, the boost curve. Like, you know, you just start off and you don't feel like there's actually any turbo lag. It just very linear. It really, really is. You know, in a Barra, which I absolutely love, you guys know, that's one of my favorite engines of all time. It's got boost lag. There's no doubt about it. You know, you take off, and then when you hit the meet at about 3,500, you can really feel that car take off to a next level. This is twin turbo, and that's, you know, the whole idea of eliminating that feeling, and it does it. It actually does, you know. Again, guys, if you're not watching in Australia, you guys are outside of Australia, I film a lot of unique Aussie cars here. The Barra, the HSVs, the FPVs. Check out my channel. The Barra is basically the Aussie equivalent of the 2JZ or even the RB26. It's at that level, guys. The 4-liter straight six single turbo built by Ford, and the things can do like 1,000 horsepower. So make sure you guys check that out. I'll actually link a video here as well. You can click the pop-up banner if you want to check out a little bit more about the Barras. Worth doing. I actually have a playlist as well. Yeah. The biggest difference, again, though, between the Barra and this 2JZ is just that smoothness. It is so smooth with boost control. It just totally linear. It doesn't feel like there's even hardly any lag in this thing. And yeah, it is just so linear. Alrighty, guys, just pulling up onto this back road. We are going to reset the draggy. And I'm going to put it into manual mode. And let's just see what we do. Traction control's off. We got power mode on. Go, 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 go. 100. Oh, man, it doesn't take long. I actually don't know what this thing is claimed at, so I'm really curious to see what that got. So let's have a look at that time. 0 to 100 was done in 6.2 seconds, and we even did lose a little bit of traction there when we first went. And we're just on a backcountry road here, guys, so we're not on a prep surface. I just left it in drive and just went for it. So, you know, this thing, stock, 20-plus-year-old car, this thing is in the fives, and this thing weighs 1.7 ton. It's absolutely so damn impressive. And yeah, again, full credit to Toyota. You know, what they were doing in the 90s, it was just the top stuff. So I'm super impressed with that. This is definitely a 5-second car, just even stock. Yeah, impressive. Now I'm going to finish the video off here today, guys. So look, a huge, huge thank you to NextRide once again for loaning me out this particular Toyota Aristo Vertex Edition. And yeah, I just think this thing is so awesome. I feel like at 30 grand for a really nice one of these cars, you can't lose money on this thing. And as soon as this thing is eligible, once again, mark my words, guys, this car is gonna, I just about guarantee it's gonna double in price. So I think these are a good investment. I think these are a brilliant car just to have anyways. And I love it. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I hope you learned something. If you did, make sure you hit that like button. Consider subscribing if you're new here. We will see you on that next video.